Hey, welcome to Growing a Fruitful Brand, where we discuss how to create and grow a brand that makes the world a better place for you, your customers, and your employees. I'm Ben Luters, founder and art director of Fruitful Design and Strategy, and this is my business partner and brand strategist, Raj Lula. And today, we're talking about artificial intelligence. So what is happening in the AI space these days, Raj?
Yeah, the big topic of the day is this platform called ChatGPT, and also in the months leading up to this, there's been AI-generated art that's kind of been all over the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of where we find ourselves right now. It'd be good for us to just to define a couple of terms real quick. So ChatGPT, as I mentioned, it's an AI writing and kind of search engine that's great at natural language. So you could ask it to, write an email
In the style of Raj Lula.
yeah, that sells plumbing supplies or something like that, and it will return something that's halfway decent. And then in the art world, why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah, I mean, some of the big ones that I'm seeing are Midjourney and DALL-E, DALL-E, letter E there. And yeah, if you just like search for these hashtags, you'll see them all over the place on social media right now.
Yeah. And the reason we're talking about them is because they are kind of blowing up. ChatGPT reached 100 million monthly active users in just 2 months. That is 7 months faster than TikTok got there and 28 months faster than Instagram got there.
And then that's very fast, just so you know. And I was looking up before we hopped on here, and they're estimating that this is going to be a $165 billion industry, artificial intelligence, this year in 2023.
So there are plenty of reasons, plenty of movies where the robots come to destroy all of us, to not like AI. Is there anything good in AI?
Well, it's funny. I'm actually I was just telling Raj, I'm actually reading iRobot right now, and it's definitely not making me feel very, warm and fuzzy towards letting the robots win necessarily. There are some good things about AI for sure. When it comes to AI art, which I'm an illustrator, my background is in illustration. And so as soon as I started seeing some of this stuff pop up, I got, you get a little scared and you get a little worried. And I saw some people posting some very strong anti-AI things. And then a lot of other friends posting a lot of AI art that they're having a lot of fun making with the prompts. But some of the positive things that I see is for artists and for non-artists, maybe especially for non-artists, you can help inspire you with fresh ideas or concepts. It can assist you with brainstorming and color palettes, getting different color palettes for what you're doing, more for artists. And you can also explore with the prompts. You can explore unique combinations of things with just the push of a button. So it's not just like, here's this one thing, but here's one thing in this style with this other thing. And you can kind of, it can really inspire you to come up with, new ideas.
You, like me, grew up in 90s Christian subculture. And so...
DC Talk.
Yeah, DC Talk. And on the heels of that, VeggieTales and Relevant Magazine posted an article. Somebody, I think on Twitter, had fed the AI art machine the prompt of doing VeggieTales.
We're flashing these on the screen for those of you watching YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, make sure you check out the video.
Yeah, or Google these, because so they did the VeggieTales version of the Book of Revelation, and there's some really bizarre kind of Mad Max almost style, definitely apocalyptic versions of Larry the Cucumber. There's, if you're not familiar with the show, it's okay. Go ahead and skip the show. But it's kind of funny, right? Like watching your cartoon characters live through the apocalypse. It'd be really funny to see a Bluey version of that.
A Bluey version. Well, here's another thing. I know obviously they're prompting that to be this, Armageddon, Revelation, end times thing. But I have noticed, especially with Midjourney, a lot of this stuff just tends to look very dystopian, and
really dark.
Yep. It's just like, it's kind of creepy. Like is this the the robots view of us? I saw one when I was searching. Maybe you've seen it too. I think it's kind of making the rounds, but it's like the prompt is the last selfie ever taken on Earth. And it's just this really, there's different versions of that, but it's this really just dark and depressing. But I feel like almost everything I'm seeing, a lot of what I'm seeing out of Midjourney is highly detailed and just dark stuff, which it's kind of the opposite of inspiration in a lot of ways.
Something else that we talked about was that, especially when, so people will feed their picture into it and then ask to be, made into a knight in shining armor or something like that. And what we've noticed is a lot of times that with women, when they put themselves in there, it changes their body proportions to something quote unquote more ideal, more conventionally attractive.
More like a Barbie or something.
And so it's funny because we started with what's good in AI and art, and you can see pretty quickly you can get into some tricky ethical territory here. I just read an article from Bill Gates this morning where he said that AI is going to be as important as the PC and the internet, and I can definitely see how that's true. But you're going to run into a lot of the similar pitfalls as well. Erwin McManus once had a quote about how the internet is the embodiment of our imagination. And I think AI is the next step towards that. And it's going to be both for great things. We get to see VeggieTales Revelation and it's funny. But then it's also going to be for some disturbing things as well. And honestly, even just you're Googling right before the show and there were a lot of just kind of disturbing images and not even graphic, just weird, stuff's just kind of unsettling.
Unsettling is a good word for it. Yeah, there's a bunch of these. They're getting served up to me on Instagram right now, which I think you click on one and then suddenly this is all you're getting served up. But just really very dark, unsettling, unnatural stuff. And obviously a lot of that I'm sure is the prompts that you're feeding it, of course. But it's kind of the thing. It's like that Black Mirror. It's kind of showing you, it's showing you what you're asking for, but in its own kind of way.
Getting back to what is actually good though, because we'll get to the negative stuff here in a moment. In writing, it can be helpful. I've messed around with it used to be called Jarvis, now it's called Jasper. I've also messed around with ChatGPT, and it can get you to what I would say is first or second base on menial writing. So if you need to send an employee an email asking about, hey, it's time to schedule your annual performance review, then that it might be easy to just say, hey, ChatGPT, can you write this email for me? Now, sometimes it takes just as much work to write the prompt as it does to get to the email. But if it's something like that, then it might save you some time.
Especially if you want to write that email in the style of Shakespeare or Mark Twain or and really have a lot of fun with
it. I was going to try to attempt a Shakespearean employee review email. Let's not do it.
Resist the urge.
It might also be good for creating things like standard operating procedures, or maybe even some language in your employee handbook. Although I wouldn't recommend doing all of that.
What do you think about scripts for podcasts? Maybe we should have done that today.
This one was done that way. We're not even here. And then it also might be good for automated sequences like onboarding, those types of things that, for like a software product or something like that. Even in those situations, I think that it's good for a first pass, but the really great onboarding sequences for software are the ones that feel really celebratory. They feel very personal. It's like, hey, good job for downloading this. You're ready to start being a sales rock star or whatever. It just, infuses a little personality into that.
A little bit of humor.
Yeah. And ChatGPT at this moment, I wouldn't just rely straight on what you get out of that. Now you might say, hey, that's great. Do a second pass, but add some humor into it. But it's a lot in the formula right now.
Have you seen that video? It's going a little bit viral right now, or it's getting served up to me anyways. I don't know if it's viral, but Ryan Reynolds reading the ChatGPT
I was thinking that
written commercial for Mint Mobile. And he told him, hey, I want a swear word in there. I want some humor in there. He had some specific things he wanted. And, it was interesting to me. It's like, it was kind of funny. And was it funny just because Ryan Reynolds was reading it or whatever, or because it's, a novelty? I don't know.
I will also say, I don't know if ChatGPT wrote that.
Ooh.
Because it might have been a writer aping ChatGPT,
Right.
to just be funny. It might have been Ryan Reynolds himself, or it could have been the AI. I don't know. It's kind of
hard
a weird,
to know.
weird moment we're in.
Exactly.
Here are a couple of things that ChatGPT is actually good for sure right now. Natural language processing, which is when you can just talk to a computer the way that you talk to a human. And Alexa has been the leader, I would say, in natural language processing, at least commercially available. Up to this point, it's definitely better than where Siri is at. It's better probably than the Google Assistant, and so that's good. It gets us out of Google speak. I think sometimes we underestimate how much we've sort of bent ourselves to the platform of Google. Back in the day when there were still sort of the search engine wars between Google and Yahoo and those things.
Remember Bing? Whatever happened? Is Bing still a thing?
Bing is still huge, actually.
Is it really?
It's crazy.
Remember when we found out we were big on Bing? I need to check that out again. No, it was like someone was saying, "Oh yeah, we went with you guys because you were number one on all the search results," and we're like, "We are not number one on all the search." We were number one on Bing for whatever reason.
We're big in Europe.
We're big on Bing. Big on Bing.
Big on Bing. Yeah, it's good for getting us out of Google speak. Instead of, I was telling you before we got started that it used to be that if you search for a dentist near me, that you would get whichever dentist was smart enough in whatever city to write, "We're the best dentist near you," and then Google will go, "Oh, okay," but it turns out they're in Phoenix and you're in Omaha, and that doesn't do any good.
Raj always goes to the dentist analogies. I hope you guys noticed that. I hope you guys noticed that. We have a compilation video a year from now, and it's going to be all the times that Raj said dentist. Anyways, I love it. Dental hygiene is very important.
So there are some good things. There's also a fair number of bad things,
which we already started getting into.
Yeah. It's hard. It's honestly hard not to kind of get to the negative side of it because there's a lot of downside at the moment. What are some of those things?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first ones that pops into my mind is it's only the art is only as good as the prompt. It's only as good. You still need someone there really massaging the prompts and getting things just right, and it still can take a certain level of creativity. To know what to even ask for too. So it's, I've seen certain people using it and getting really horrendous results. And then I've seen other people using it and getting really, really refined results. So that's, it's not all the prompts are created equal for sure. And there's also, there's a little bit of suspicious quality. Famously, AI has struggled to render human hands for some reason. That'll probably get better, I imagine. There's also some just weird, blurring and stuff going on, on some faces and stuff. And I've seen others that are a lot better, but it's not consistent necessarily. And especially with, like we were saying with Midjourney, there's this kind of like suspicious, just kind of look to it. It just has this consistent feel that just feels like AI, like you see it and it's AI in it now. And again, that'll probably get better, but I think when you see a piece of art or you see an illustration or you see a design, I don't think you want people immediately to be like, "Oh yeah, that was made by a robot." I don't think that's now again, some better than others, but those are some of the things that kind of pop into my mind.
Yeah, and that's mostly on the art side of it.
Yeah.
You have similar issues on the writing side, where, again, it's very dependent on the query or the prompt. The Ryan Reynolds thing, if it was truly written by AI, it had a very specific prompt. It was write a Mint Mobile commercial. So now it can pull from existing Mint Mobile commercial transcripts. So it kind of knows what elements to include in it.
Yeah.
But then in the style of Ryan Reynolds, okay, lots of movie scripts out there, lots of video of him. And, but even then he had to sort of like make sure to include a swear word and then he asked it to include a joke as well. Again, I'm not 100% certain that it was written by AI. But if it
I
was,
trust Ryan. I trust Ryan.
But if it was, it took a lot of creative energy to get to something that was usable. In fact, I'm curious how many drafts of the prompt there were.
I did think that.
Because was the first one, hey, ChatGPT, write a Mint Mobile commercial, and you would assume because he's been in most or all the Mint Mobile commercials that it would do it in the style of Ryan Reynolds. But maybe we have to say, oh, specifically in the style of Ryan Reynolds. And so it was like, okay, so they did that. Oh, we want it to include a swear word. Oh, okay, so maybe that was the third, fourth, fifth draft of just the query. And at some point, it's faster to just write the commercial yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that's always true, especially if you're writing a whole standard operating procedure or something like that. It could be a little bit faster to lean on AI to speed you up. But there's still a lot of human work that has to go into feeding the machine correctly. And to be honest, I'm not sure if those are jobs that we all really want to spend a lot of time doing.
Well, what kind of comes to my mind is, in the field of graphic design that I was trained in and still kind of live in, a lot of the things that are just a click of a button in Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or Procreate, those are things that people it took hours and hours for people to do, cutting things out, taking photos of, scanning things. Like there's all these steps that graphic designers in the 80s and 90s, that we don't ever have to do. We have automations for those things, and we still have jobs. But we don't have to do the parts of the jobs that we don't like. So I think that's one way to think about, AI when it comes to, creative things like the writing and the design, is just because AI is going to maybe take out some of the more menial parts of our job doesn't mean that, we'll be replaced necessarily.
That's a really great point, because I actually love in Lightroom now, which is a photo editing software. Mm-hmm. It is way easier, based off of their latest update, to outline a subject and then only edit that part of the photo. So if you want to make the person a little bit brighter than the background, you can do that super easy now. And that makes my job easier when I'm taking photos. And
creating all the graphics for this podcast, that's gotten way easier. I literally, up until a year ago, I was by hand on my iPad tracing, trying to go around people's, hair and stuff like that. And now it's like literally a click of a button. AI does that for me. And that's great. I don't miss those days,
Is that why I had less hair in some of those?
That's right.
It's not because of age.
I was not being very kind to you, but now AI is more precise.
You can accidentally miss some of the body though, if you'd like.
That's right. You used to have me do that a bit. AI will not. So.
It will,
unless you're a woman.
It'll make me look like Ryan Reynolds. It's the great thing. So
that's right.
I welcome our new robot overlords. In writing, you also have the quality problem where you don't necessarily know if what is being written is accurate. So a Mint Mobile commercial, for example. It could introduce a deal that, Mint Mobile is now free or whatever.
And this podcast is brought to you by Mint Mobile, by the way.
Thanks, Ryan.
That's right.
And so it's like we don't have the kind of research or the sources. It doesn't tell you. Like with Google, one of the things that's different is that you have to go to that site to get the information. Now, Google has kind of surfaced some of the information of, is this business permanently closed, that kind of stuff. Again, all of that is being fed from other sources, and you can ultimately get down to the sources. ChatGPT is not currently providing that. Yeah. And so there's a lot of question of, do these symptoms equal, pink eye? And it's like, I don't, ChatGPT says so, but is it based off of, what blog is that off of, or what medical website?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. And we're in this age, of course, of fake news, disinformation, et cetera, and, competing views on, science and whatever, there's a, which sources is it pulling from? Yeah. And, if you have, let's say, very, very vocal people saying things that are not true across the internet, are they going to start pulling from those sources, or are those blacklisted? It gets into some interesting territory there where it's like, where is it getting its sources? What's considered to be true? Is it just whatever's, the greatest quantity on the internet?
Right.
I really don't know how that works.
Yeah, that goes into another issue with AI is that this now is allowing anyone to create content. And that's
Hmm.
fine. This is the direction that the internet's been moving in general. It used to be that the only person who had a camera pointed at them was a famous actor or a news anchor, and
And now we do.
look at these guys.
So anyone can do it.
So yeah, there's some of that is obviously good for businesses, for individuals to have platforms that wouldn't have been otherwise accessible to them. But as we continue to move in this direction, we're already overwhelmed by content. I was just telling you this week that I'm still catching up on some episodes of our own podcast that you did interviews, and I want to hear the content, but then the holidays happened, and
Right.
we're getting back to the office. I was listening to an audiobook, and it just took me some time to get back around to the content. There's a lot of content out there already,
Yeah.
and the increase in that is going to cause it to be harder to stand out in some ways. I think
Mhm.
in some ways it'll actually make it easier to stand out because it'll allow humans, humanity's just creative qualities and weirdness
Mhm.
to rise to the top. The things that stand out because they're unique are going to have a little bit more value. But overall, we're just going to continue seeing an increase in content, and
Mhm.
some of that's good, some of that's bad.
Another thing that comes to mind, I was just talking to my kids about this, about like why is something what makes something valuable? And we had a conversation about scarcity. It's not that gold or diamonds or whatever that they're just because they look so pretty or what. There's a limited amount of this stuff, and that gives it value. And so there's something about how you're able to just create this stuff at a click of a button, and anyone can do it, and how fast it is. That there's always going to be a separation, I think, between that and true, art, for example. I think that
Yeah.
there's something about having, a book written by a real person, who has real life experiences and a real human perspective. That'll always be, more interesting and more valuable to people than something that they know was created by a robot. And same with when it comes to actual art. This last year, my family, we've got this big, beautiful landscape painting that a friend of mine, Emily Davis, I'll have to throw her a web address into the show notes. Beautiful, imaginative landscape painting that she did. Is hanging on my wall. Could AI create something that looks somewhat similar in that style? Well, yeah, probably. And could have printed it out on, some kind of a canvas or something like that. But it doesn't have the same value to me. It's not
Yeah.
the same. This was someone that I knew, that has honed in this style over many, many years and much practice, and gotten her hands, dirty to create that. And that's just, there's something so much more inherently valuable to me there. And so that's more in the kind of art space, though. I think, for creating something, quick and dirty, and, first draft of an email, something to inspire a later design, totally fine. But I think that there is something to be said when I see artists, especially, getting worried that they're going to be replaced. I just don't really buy it. And I don't think I'm alone in that.
Some of that comes from, again, what is this for? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the increase in volume, is it good? And I think for a little chuckle, like, VeggieTales doing Revelation, Mad Max style or whatever, it's funny, but I'm going to forget about that. And you're not going to forget about this painting. And
Yeah.
there's other experiences too with a painting, seeing individual brush strokes
Yeah.
and sometimes not exactly the fingerprint of the artist, but almost,
Oh, yeah.
there's just this quality to it that it doesn't matter that the computer might actually be able to do it better. There's
Yeah.
great, beautiful Photoshop artworks out there,
Mhm.
but it just doesn't mean as much, and
She
that's a
even,
huge piece of it.
this is another, just a shout out to her, but it does speak to the human side of when you're working with an artist. I told her she has this, kind of established style. I told her a few of the pieces that I liked the most of hers, but she actually like she painted like little thumbnail versions of what she wanted to do for us, came over to our house with the actual paints she's considering, and wanted to see how the paints looked in the room. Wow. And looked with the paint color we had on the wall and the color of the furniture. It's like, I mean, that's an incredible level of detail, care, thoughtfulness. And it just, to me, it just raised the value of that piece. It was like customized somehow to our family. And not that every artist does that or should do that necessarily. You know, she was thinking, I think, more like a graphic designer or a brander in a lot of ways. Yeah. But again, you're not going to get that level of, you know, just human personality and care, like real human care, I think, from AI.
Yeah, it's going to be on you if you print one out and you go, it doesn't look right in this room, and you go, I need it with 30% more blue or something. Exactly. And then again, you're back feeding information to the machine.
Yeah. And you're the one bringing that value. And I think that's the important thing, is like, that's why it's only as good as the prompts, because it's on you to really get that out of the machine. The machine can get it probably eventually, but it's going to take a lot more massaging and fine tuning.
I will say, I'm not totally down on AI. Like I said, there are some good things. I don't want to sound like I'm just negative on this. I love the natural language processing, all that. But I think when you get into some of the a little bit weirder, creepier side of things, then it definitely becomes concerning. For example, with art, you know, there are things that humans would know not to paint or not make. And now they might do it anyway to be subversive or to be provocative, but they would know that they're doing it. I'm not sure, you know, it's like, will these, AI things have filters that it won't transgress certain things that may even be illegal to create, you know? And
I think some of them do right now, but like what happens when those you get turned off or you make your own or someone, you know, you get into some weird moral territory pretty darn fast.
There's movies like Blade Runner 2049 and Her that kind of illustrate our potential to have a weird relationship with AI. I mean, think about if you lost someone and you fed it all of your emails, all of your text messages, all of that, and then you wanted to continue to text with that person after they were gone.
Oh yeah.
Like
wait, doesn't that exist? It doesn't.
There are
what
things. What
was that thing? Wasn't it? Is it Alexa or something? Can do the voice of a loved one or something? You can talk to. I feel like that was supposed to be a heartwarming story, but I feel like to me there's just there's
dystopian and weird.
Yeah, you know? I know. I don't find that.
But this goes back to your point that scarcity creates value. You know, that our limited time on Earth with people really cements the value of our relationship. So, you know, if we had unlimited time with people, then you could invest that time with anyone, and you could get to know every person on the planet, and you know, you could go deep with everyone. But part of what is valuable about our relationships is our commitment to someone and saying, hey, I want to spend time with you. I want to spend time getting to know you for the rest of our lives. And you know, some of these other things, I'm not saying they may not have a therapeutic value in helping somebody get over a loss, but at the same time, it can definitely enable us to not process the things that we need to process about our own humanity, our own mortality, and I think that's concerning.
For sure.
I know that's deeper than we usually get on the podcast, but
sorry guys.
You know,
I love that you put Her there. I'd forgotten about that, but that was a weird one.
Yeah.
But not too far off. I feel like at the time it was kind of like, and then now it's like, well,
but now Alexa can do it for you.
Maybe.
Another thing that we definitely need to talk about is that we don't know what a company like ChatGPT is doing with our data. And so let's take write an email to plumbing business customer, trying to sell this service. And then, it's like, well, what do you have to feed it to get it to know that, how to write this email? Do you have to include the price of the service? Do you have to include, the detailed descriptions of that? Well, now think about it. Even just that, if you do that, the price of the service and detailed descriptions of what you do. Now, if another business says, hey, write me a description for this plumbing service and suggest a price to me. Is it giving your processes and your information to somebody else because of what you've already fed?
It's in the pot.
Is it private? I don't,
Yeah. I don't know.
Where does this data go? Think about if you go way deeper than that. Okay. Write an email to the top 10% of my best customers advertising this new service that is this, that is this price and includes these deliverables. Now, if you have to feed all your QuickBooks information into it or all that, now I don't think it's even capable of doing that right now. But the more you train it to be specific to your business, you're giving it a lot of information that you maybe wouldn't give Google or you wouldn't give somebody else, or at least you have a better relationship with those. There's a lot of online products that have a lot of information about us, but right now they're all pretty siloed. And that information is private to me, or it's supposed to be, and that's a big concern that I have with giving a platform like this too much information. And now somebody would probably correctly say, well, we've already given Google too much information, or we've already given Facebook. And that's probably true. I just don't think that we should just walk blindly into that and say, like, do we know for sure if they're giving our hard work? We talked about how human dependent this is to other people, and making it easier for our competitors to use what we've worked really hard to do. I just don't know that that's necessarily a good idea. So I'm probably going to have us wrap here because we actually have a whole nother part to this conversation talking specifically about marketing. Can I replace my marketing team with AI art and AI writing? But we're going to bring that to you in a second episode. And so at the end of this one, what's our sort of general sniff about AI art and ChatGPT? Is it all bad? Like, is it all negative? Or
no? I think probably a good way to kind of wrap this one from my standpoint, Raj, tell me if you think I'm wrong, is just shifting your perspective and just thinking of AI as more of a tool, and to not be necessarily afraid of it, and to see in what ways it could help you and your business and your processes, and at the same time being a bit, I don't know, guarded or cautious, and then that's okay, because as technology has advanced, security has continued to be and privacy has been a very, very important part of that equation. And so I wouldn't go in with a ton of fear. I think we've all been, at least I have, been hesitant to adopt new technology at times. I told myself I would never have a smartphone. I have one. I said I'd never have an Apple Watch. I have an Apple Watch. You
said that? Really? About Apple Watch? Oh, I love my Apple Watch.
Oh yeah. No, when it first came out, I was like, I never want to have a phone on my wrist or whatever. I remember even thinking, like, when cell phones started having cameras on them. Like, I've got a camera, I've got a cell phone. I don't ever want to have a camera in my cell phone. But like, I think some people can get scared of new technology and think that it's going to change the way that things are for the worse necessarily. And I think just entering in with maybe a cautious curiosity would probably be where I'd steer people.
It's not the devil, but it's also not your savior.
Yeah,
it is a tool, and just like anything, any tool that can be both used for good and dangerous.
Yeah,
it's something to hold with responsibility.
Exactly, much like the internet itself.
Yeah,
like you kind of said, where it's like internet can be, from one perspective, an absolutely terrible cesspool. Yeah. Whereas on another hand, it's the thing that's giving us our livelihood and the livelihood of so many people and connecting people in meaningful ways that were previously unimaginable. Yeah. So, yeah, much like that.
All right, so we are sort of halfway in, halfway out on AI. There are definitely some good use cases for it, but it's something to be cautious about. We're going to bring you another episode about how to use it with marketing, if you should use it with marketing, and we look forward to bringing that to you.
Thanks for joining us today on Growing a Fruitful Brand. If you found today's show helpful, don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might also enjoy it. If you'd like to work with Fruitful on a branding, website, or messaging project of your own, you can always reach out on our website, fruitful.design. So until next time, don't forget to grow something good.